Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, pause this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. In the context of this podcast, everybody refers to us and our cat. You are free to feel however you want about Rand, who is a fictional character. Don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
What? I'm gonna be so confused. I'm sorry. I worked on a transcript this morning from Early in the Shadow Rising.
Yeah.
Read The Fires of Heaven, and then read The Path of Daggers. So I'm like, I have no idea where we are in
Welcome
space and
to
time.
Running a Wheel of Time blog. Podcast,
That's
yeah. What this is.
I'm just like, what's happening?
No, yeah, I was transcribing something from earlier in The Fires of Heaven. Today, and I wrote on a Memory of Light blog yesterday, and I was like thinking about something in particular. Oh, it's because I was working on the fucking Great Hunt.
Oh yeah.
For someone a little while ago for our vandalism, and I came across for our vandalism for money. We vandalize for money.
I mean,
Welcome
we do.
to being white.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading that scene in The Great Hunt where they're at the party and Rand gets, like, trapped by women in skirts. Mm-hmm. And then he goes and talks to Tom about it, and Tom says something about how one of the ladies is, like, the Lady Brienne. And I was like, I know that name. And then it was like, only then, after, like, 5 times reading the dang series, that I was like, Brienne's one of Morgaz's companions, and it's heavily implied that she's a Kyrian and noblewoman. But I was just like, la-di-da, didn't think that we could have been introduced to her in the limited time we'd been in Kyrian. But we were. She was one of the women who tried to bone Rand for gold-digging reasons. Which, like, good for her. I'm glad she settled down with Lamgwin and his cat.
Yeah. She was in the chapters I just read.
Oh, in Path of Daggers?
Yeah, because Perrin has just connected with Moghedien, as she is called, or whatever. Oh, and he's like, well, she really reminds me of Elaine for some reason. It's like, you have no brain cells.
The constant... It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
How just for so many books in the later ends of the series, it's like, no one recognizes Morgause. And I'm like, what's the point of having a character in disguise if no one's going to recognize them? Yeah. Otherwise, it's just like identity theft.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
Yeah. Everyone was just like, oh, she's Andoran.
She's an Andoran lady with red gold hair who's very beautiful and looks like Elaine. And Perrin's like...
Must be just a woman down on her luck.
I was so shocked. Not shocked, but, like... I found it hilarious how at the end of this book, Davram Bashir is like, I heard Morgause is dead. And Rand's like, oh yeah, she's super dead. And I'm like, according to what, Rand? Yeah. Like, have you seen a body? You didn't even question Robin about it. This is literally just, you know.
You were too busy shooting to kill.
Hearsay. So Robert Jordan was just like, I'm just going to skim over that little...
I mean, Rand also has no thoughts in his head.
Yeah, that's true. Rand sits down in the throne of Andor, and Davram Bashir's like, so are you going to be king? And Rand's like, no, how dare you accuse me of that? And Davram Bashir's like, you're
sitting
on the throne.
What's happening?
And Rand's like, I just wanted to sit down. And Bashir's like, there are other chairs.
You could have picked a less symbolically loaded chair to sit down in.
This is immediately after Rand was apparently standing in a window.
Yeah, just like looking at Matt.
Yeah.
And Avienda.
Fucking stop. He climbed. We're told he has to use his fingertips to climb into this window ledge just so he can peer down at his friends. Yeah. He's the creepiest motherfucker on the planet.
I also find the idea of Matt and Avienda hanging out together alone very funny. Like, what were they doing?
Rand's like, Matt's just probably probing for information on what the Ale are doing or whatever. And I'm like, surely they have something to talk about.
Knives or something.
I don't know. We see Matt hang out with Avienda a little bit in the next book when she joins the girls in Salidar, right? Matt takes her some of the way.
I think so.
And they're just sort of, like, awkward.
Yeah, Matt's just sort of like...
I don't know, it's a shame Matt doesn't get to have female friends beyond Bergie, because I think it would be hilarious if Matt was just, like, super close friends with Avienda, had a really love-hate relationship with Elaine, and was just like, Min who? With all of them.
Who's Min?
We met her?
I don't remember this.
I haven't met her since. Book 1. Literally, has Matt ever...
I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Matt met Min in book 1, briefly. May have met her in book 2, briefly, because they were all at Falm together. Then did not see her again, until, get this, he starts being, all the Taviran boys start being able to, like, see each other. When they think of things, and then Matt casually thinks of Rand and is like, oh my god, he's fully in flagrante with a woman.
Oh, that would be my nightmare, to, like, think of your friend and be like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's sort of
Carry on.
An interesting plot point. Flagrante, I think, is the funniest way of saying fucking. The French are so good.
The French are so funny.
I guess we're talking about Wheel of Time now. No intro needed. Yeah, this is Everybody Hates Rand. It's your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. We're finished with the Fires of Heaven.
We are done.
Yeah, I'm Emily Jushaw.
I am Sally Goodger.
And here we are to talk about the very confusing sequence of events at the end of Fires of Heaven.
Honestly, like, I was reading it, and, like, I know they end up in the World of Dreams, but when Rand is entering the World of Dreams, I'm like, where is this motherfucker going?
Yeah, because at the end of the last, not chapter, the end of where we last left off, Rand, like, opens a gateway, and we were like, oh yeah, so this is where he enters the World of Dreams, because I, like, remember that part. But no, apparently he just fully traveled.
Yeah.
Which is like, what?
Yeah.
This is like how he figures it out? Yeah. Like, okay.
So wild.
He fully traveled into the Palace of Camelin, where there are still just, like, people hanging out, and he and Robin are just, like, balefire everywhere. Until finally Robin's like, I'm gonna take this to Teleron Riyadh, where I'll have an advantage, because this is the stupidest motherfucker west of the Mississippi. West of the Albania. Is that the river name?
I think so. I think it is. It's close enough.
Alguenya?
Alguenya.
Let's see if it's in. I really doubt. Robert Jordan is always like, character names in the glossary, but place names? Absolutely not. Nope, it is not. I'll never know, I guess. What were we talking about? Teleron Riyadh, traveling.
Yeah, so Rand and Robin are just in the Palace of Camelin, like, throwing balefire around like they're playing tennis, basically.
Yeah, there are servants, like, huddled in
like,
terror.
screaming, and Rand's like, I'm not gonna hurt you, and it's like, then stop throwing balefire
Then
at people.
Stop making fire with your hands. Yeah. Do you know what you're terrifying?
Yeah. This section is written really well in terms of, like, Rand's headspace, because he's very much in the, like, throes of Sidon madness, I guess.
Yeah, we've got Rand is suffering from a lot of grief, which I think is really interesting, that despite the grossness of the varying levels of destruction to the bodies that I mentioned last time, we do get an equal helping of grief for Matt and Asmodean, oddly. Like, Rand isn't just, like, lingering over Avienda's dead, beautiful face. He's like, that thing smoked like Matt's boots smoked. Like, he's clearly very preoccupied with all three of them. So, that's interesting. And yeah, then he's got some really extreme him versus Luz Thurin stuff going on, because he is, I guess in his mind, or in the part of his mind that belongs to Luz Thurin, really recreating this moment where Luz Thurin killed a ton of people, like, in the confines of a fancy house, I guess, is what we're supposed to get. So Luz Thurin keeps being like, Ilyena, and Rand's like, I don't fucking know who that is.
He's like, I don't know, I don't care about that bitch.
I don't know who
Luz,
that is.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't care about Ilyena.
I mean, he will, because he's a psycho, and he's like, Ilyena. And Lutherin's like, she's a dead woman. And Rand's like, oh! Oh!
That's my weakness.
Automatically.
Dead women.
Dead women. No! Yeah, and then it's even more warped by the fact that Teleron-Riyadh is a weird place and Robin can impose things upon Rand. So yeah, Rand is, like, gone full psycho.
Yeah, like, he is not in a healthy state of mind, shall we say.
Meanwhile, we're bouncing back and forth between him and Nynaeve, who is much more, like, clear with her narrations. But is also, like, a little bit confusing because we now have the added mind meld between her and Moghedien.
Yeah.
Which we didn't talk about last time, the end of the chapter, but Nynaeve is training Swan in Teleron-Riyadh secretly.
Yeah.
They're probably the two worst people to be together in a confined space, given that they just start fist fighting at one point.
Yeah. It's like, ladies.
Women. Come on. Have a little self-respect, please.
If you don't respect each other, at least respect yourselves.
Yeah, the funniest part about that is that, like, Swan reverts to her, like, childhood kid clothes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, I haven't had a good alley scrap in
years.
Decades, I assume. But while they're fighting, Moghedien also thinks this is hilarious.
Yeah.
So apparently...
Well, I mean, it is.
Sort of comes out of hiding to get a better view. She's got, like, opera glasses. Yes. Oh my god, this is hilarious. And Nynaeve spots her, or something, and does the smart thing and immediately shoves Swan out of Teleron-Riyadh.
Yeah.
And is like... and goes running to hide. And... there, she is again confronted by Moghedien, because apparently tracking people through Teleron-Riyadh is an easy thing. I don't think... probably the girls learn how to do it, but parents mostly are a touchstone for that, and as we've complained already, Perrin doesn't really learn how to use Teleron-Riyadh until, like, book 11, so... cool. But... Moghedien makes her usual threatening noises, but is sort of cut off when Birgitte again appears. She later tells us that when Swan woke up and was like, Birgitte was like, oh, something's wrong, and took whatever sedative Nynaeve had made and traveled into Teleron-Riyadh. So Birgitte doesn't really accomplish anything because she is like, hey, Moghedien, before shooting at her, which she herself is like,
that was stupid.
That was stupid, but, you know, I have honor systems and whatnot.
Yeah.
And Moghedien briefly, like, turns her into a little child. And Nynaeve's like, okay, I just gotta, like, pretend to grovel for a bit to, distract her. Nynaeve doesn't really have, like, a plan form, it feels like, until she grabs Moghedien. And then she creates an Adam, one of the Shanshin bracelet and collar combo things, so that Moghedien is under her power. And Nynaeve talks about just, like, fixing it in her mind, which I just think is such, like, that's the way the rules work in Teleron-Riyadh, is that you can make anything reality by believing it is reality. And we eventually get into, like, some of the finer points of that with Perrin versus Slayer as they are fighting and just doing things with reality. And but it's just interesting that we have, like, Perrin master it in, like, the 2 books that he spends training, and Moghedien, the Forsaken, who we're told is arguably one of the best at Teleron-Riyadh, is just like, whoops. Now
oh no.
I'm caught. TM. Dunk.
No.
Like, that she can't, we're not really given to understand that there's any sort of battle of wills going on here.
Yeah.
It's just, like, whoever moves faster.
Yeah, and I think it would be more interesting if it was a battle of wills, because that's, like, Nynaeve and Moghedien's whole thing, is they're repeatedly, like, clashing.
Yeah.
They're, like, at the same, like, Nynaeve even says here they're at the same power level.
Yeah, but,
It's
like,
just interesting.
we do know that Nynaeve's superpower, as it were, is her very great strength of will.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if it was a thing of will, it'd be funny to be like, of course Nynaeve won a battle of wills.
Yeah.
It's Nynaeve, you know?
It's just, like, 10 seconds flat. It's
Yeah.
like, no.
Moghedien's like, oh, that was exhausting.
And maybe that's, like, the implication.
Yeah.
Because in all of the regards, we know Moghedien's a pretty weak, cowardly character.
Yeah.
Who sort of gives in at the first sign of danger. But, you know, it's not made explicit. Mm-hmm. So it is sort of left to our interpretation. Mm-hmm. Which in Teleron Riyadh, I think, despite the fact that it's a liminal space, we do need as much explicit material as we can find.
Yes.
Like, otherwise we just sort of end up in Rand's whack headspace.
Yeah. Where you're like, wait, what happened?
Like, I'm on an acid
There's
trip.
a lightning storm?
I don't know what's
Fish
going on.
are eating you?
Yeah, Rand just, like, cuts from, like, a beautiful description of the garden.
Yeah.
To, like, and now it's full of water and I'm drowning and piranhas are eating me. And I'm like, what the fuck?
What's happening?
Slow down, bucko.
Yeah.
But so Nynaeve successfully captures Moghedien, which also gives her access to channeling, since Nynaeve herself can't really channel, especially with the Terangriel she's using. But Brigitte saved. Brigitte goes back. Brigitte has a hilarious line where Nynaeve's like, oh my god, I almost, like, just ran. And Brigitte's like, well, you didn't. And Nynaeve's like, I know, but I feel like such a coward. And Brigitte's like, it's so sad to be associated with a coward like you, Nynaeve.
Yeah.
Saying to the woman who has captured one of the Forsaken after kicking her ass twice.
Yeah.
And then disappears.
Brigitte is so funny.
Iconic. But Nynaeve finds out from Moghedien that something is going on in Camelin between Rand and Robin, and despite probably believing that it's all happening in the physical world, she's just like, we're gonna go to there. Moghedien's like, why? No. Yeah. That makes no sense.
But it does, because then Rand and Robin are there physically.
Yeah, luckily then, Robin and Rand just stroll on into Teleron Riyadh physically. Which supposedly is a detrimental thing, but again, that's something that is told to us repeatedly throughout this series, but is never really proven.
Yeah, Moghedien keeps being like, it's super dangerous that they're here physically. Something bad is going to happen to them, to the world, to us. And Nynaeve's like, well, whatever.
Yeah, similarly, like, the wise ones are like, it's evil to go into Teleron Riyadh in the flesh, but in, say, A Memory of Light, we get an extended sequence where both Perrin and Gaul are in Teleron Riyadh physically. Gaul for, like, a really long time, and he appears to come out of it with no detrimental
That's because he's
side
pure
effects.
of heart.
Perrin does fall into a coma for, like, 2 weeks.
Well.
For, like, the entire last battle. But... And in the last battle, I feel like missed this the first time around, but Perrin has, like, a whole bunch of stuff right before the last battle, and then he's literally in a coma for the entire thing, and then he wakes up enough to, like, join the climactic sequence. But that 200-page chapter titled The Last Battle, Perrin is asleep.
Good for him, man.
Which
Sleep
I'm like,
through the end of the world.
God, I wish that were me.
Yeah.
The only sad thing is that Matt doesn't get told that Perrin is asleep, so Matt could be like, man,
Why am I not asleep?
I could be asleep.
Damn it.
God damn.
Didn't know that was an option.
I have to lead the fucking last
Thought
battle.
participation was mandatory.
I thought I had to be here. Get a participation trophy for participating.
I'm gonna make us participation trophies after we finish A Memory of Light in like 19 years. It'll be the EHR
It's been
participation
19 years.
Participation
trophy. And no participation trophy for Perrin.
Yeah, no for Perrin. He's in a coma, like Sleepless in Seattle.
He was
Not Sleepless in Seattle while you were sleeping.
God.
Sorry.
Sleepless in Seattle is the antithesis of coma.
That's Gaul.
Gaul
is sleepless.
He is. Teleron Riyadh? Shale Gaul? Don't know.
Anyway,
what
long
was I
time
saying?
from now.
Anyway, we sort of have this mirroring thing happening with everyone being told and telling us that balefire is really dangerous. And we do eventually get some payoff with the idea that balefire is dangerous because in A Memory of Light, the world starts literally sort of falling apart at the seams due to prolonged use of balefire. And my big argument there is that, like with many other things, books about 8 through 11, Robert Jordan should have somehow managed to cut down to 2 books. Mm-hmm. Because so many of the plot threads, like balefire, like the World of Dreams, that he clearly meant to do something with earlier in the series just sort of get fizzled out. And so then when Brandon Sanderson is frantically backpedaling to bring them back into the story, it's sort of like, too little too late, bro. Yeah. I've completely forgotten everything about balefire. I've completely forgotten everything about the World of Dreams. Yeah. Your rules no longer apply. Mm-hmm. So that's my big thesis, is that we should have been handling balefire a lot more than we did if it was going to be such a big fucking deal in the last book. Yeah. Which is even downplayed a little bit in the last book. Edwin's just like, ooh, magic weave, and negates, I mean, its effects.
Cool for her.
I mean, cool for her, but it would have been cool if she was, like, figuring it out before then.
Yeah, I mean, balefire as a concept is just frustrating because it's, like, so overpowered. It's just, like, a way to, you know, completely OP Rand off the face of the planet.
Yeah.
But then they're like, oh, but there's, like, a, you know, rule against using it that Rand doesn't follow.
So and apparently the Forsaken don't either.
Yeah. So it's just, like, and then the fact that Egg is like, oh, I'm also OP and will negate it. And then Brandon Sanderson is somewhere in the middle trying to be like, what's happening?
Yeah, balefire is, like, such a cool concept in terms of, like, a metaphor for nuclear power or weapons of mass destruction. But yeah, the problem with equipping your main character with it in book 3 is, like, ooh, Rand gets a little nutso with it.
Rand gets very balefire happy, very trigger happy.
Especially in book 5, I mean, it really jumps out here where he balefires Robin so fucking hard that he, you know,
just, like, vanishes. Nynaeve is like, he was just fucking gone.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we had Rand use balefire, I don't know if it was for the first time here in book 5. I feel like he's probably used it before. Mm-hmm. But, against the Dark Hounds, and I think it would have been more interesting if he'd just sort of seen Moiraine use it and then used it for the first time here. Yeah. Not knowing what it would do. Yeah. So that, you know, then it sort of, I don't know, lends itself to a more even progression. Because by the time you get to book, 12, Rand balefires an entire, like, fortress out of existence, which is, like, so bad.
Rand, you can't do that. Moiraine specifically was like, don't do this.
Yeah, Rand
and he was like, do it on a massive scale?
It's cool. I'm Truman dropping the bomb on Hiroshima. Like, no!
Poor Moiraine. She comes out of the Tower of Genji and is like, what the fuck did I tell you?
And Rand's like, it was to kill Grendel. And Grendel's like, but I'm alive, bitch.
He's so dumb. Yeah, so balefire is just, like, out of control, much like Randall Thor himself.
Much like Randall Thor, yeah. It's just things that we need established rules for earlier. Like, there should be more obvious detriments to using balefire earlier in the series, because otherwise we just have other characters sort of anachronistic word that it is bad. Yeah. You know, we don't have anyone really testifying, hey, well, I was there and I saw how bad it was, except for the Forsaken, who, why would you believe the Forsaken, you know? Yeah.
Asmodean is like, no.
Asmodean's like, I may mean if it brings me back to life.
Then do it.
Do what you gotta do.
Yeah. Yeah, so balefire is just a weird bug.
A cool concept in theory, but in practice sort of falls by the wayside. So we have Rand chasing Robin through the palace, first physically, then the World of Dreams. It's very confusing what's happening. It's just sort of like fire, balefire, things lightning, everywhere.
Piranhas.
Rand is definitely channeling while he's in Teleron Riyadh. Robin doesn't really seem to be. He seems to just be using Teleron Riyadh rules, such as, you know, putting Rand in a... first he tries to, like, make Rand not exist. Yeah. Rand is already having this, like, personality clash in his head between him and Loose Thread, and then he, like, looks down and is like, oh my god, I'm see-through. Mm-hmm. And he sort of tangentially realizes that Robin is doing something, but he has to, again, impose his will upon the world of dreams. Like, I'm Rand. I'm this son of a bitch. And then there's the whole piranhas thing, which is just, like, upsetting. And we later have Rand, Robin tries to turn Rand into, like, a beast of some sort.
Yeah.
Which seems out of place. You'd think it would be Perrin. You know, this would apply better, but... all this is interspersed with Nynaeve walking around the Palace of Caemlyn, noticing the signs of destruction, and eventually being like, oh, men's footsteps everywhere. And she's just sort of, like, dragging Moghedien along.
Yeah. Moghedien, who's like literally just crying.
Moghedien's like, we're gonna die. Yeah. And Nynaeve's like, shut up.
You're so annoying.
You're so annoying. Yeah, it's not like Nynaeve is participating in the battle a whole ton. It's not like it's a three-way fight where Rand eventually is like, oh, I have another person on my side. You know, it's that Robin has set one of his traps and Rand is in it, and Nynaeve catches up to Robin right then and sets the hallway he is in so on fire that he's just like, yikes. And gets all, like, scarred and burned. He's like Anakin after falling into the lava.
Don't try it, Anakin.
Don't try it. I have the high ground. Nynaeve.
Don't try it, Robin.
I have the high ground. You are like a brother to me. But she sets Robin on fire, and he's, like, turns around with Kill Bill sirens. Yeah. But that gives Rand enough time to sort of wake up and be like, I see him, balefire.
Yeah, balefire the fuck out of him.
Yeah. And that's, like, sort of, you know, the extent of the battle. We then get, you know, Rand brushing up and being like, what the? Nynaeve? He's not even surprised to see Nynaeve. He's just like, did you see Robin die? And Nynaeve's like, indeed, can testify that that motherfucker is super dead. Mm-hmm. Unlike Morgoth, haven't seen a body. And Rand's like, great. Does not ask, who's this woman?
Yeah, right.
Like, Nynaeve has a whole panic. She's like, oh, if Rand sees this collar and bracelet situation, he's gonna be like, what the F? And I'm like, but would he, though?
No.
Doesn't really seem to care, so she, like, makes it invisible. And he's just like, oh, hey, is this where you meet, Edwin? And Nynaeve's like, that's not really the point right now. You need to, like, get out, because this is bad for you. And he's like, everything's bad for me. I'm the Dragon Reborn.
Oh, I know. He has this whole drama monologue where he's like, Lan told me to tell you to fuck off. And Nynaeve's like, what is he saying?
He's like, tell Elaine I found another person to love and I can ever love me again. Yeah. And Lan told me to tell you the same thing, Nynaeve. And Nynaeve's like, what?
Like, what are you saying? It doesn't make any sense.
She's like, what were you guys talking about that this even came up? Yeah. It's not like he's like, just so you know, Moiraine's dead. Lan's having like a post-traumatic suicide mission thing, and he wants to break up with you. And then Nynaeve could be like, oh, here's a problem.
At least that makes sense.
At least that makes sense.
But Rand just saying words and then
Rand's just like, Lan wants me to tell you he's breaking up with you. And Nynaeve's like, what? In the H?
She's like, I don't believe him, obviously.
Okay, whatever. But Rand leaves, and Moghedien's like, well, I did help. You can't say I didn't help. And Nynaeve's like, you were crying the entire time. And also, you've let slip that you're in Salidar, so see you then, bitch.
Yeah, it's very cool, actually.
I know, it's cool. She's like, here, take this to drink. Something called fork root. And Moghedien's like, to keep me from following you. Yes, of course. And Nynaeve's like, nah.
See you in Salidar, motherfucker.
See you in Salidar. And Moghedien's like,
and then she, like, passes out.
Yeah. Which, you know, explains then how Nynaeve will wake up and go capture her, I guess.
For the, like, 18th time?
Yeah. This time, though, they have an Adam, which is just, like, adds a complicated layer to the issue.
For sure.
Human rights violations.
I'm sure we'll talk about it at length in Lord of Chaos.
In Lord of Chaos, when it's, you know, actually a prescient issue. Rand, meanwhile, leaves the palace of Caemlyn. It's like, hello, darkness, my old friend. Because he's like, everyone I know is dead. He sees the ale fighting off the Trollocs. And then he's like, wait, is that? And he's like, oh shit, it is Avienda. And there's Matt. Aviend is, like, fighting someone with a knife and also channeling. Matt is like, let them go. He's done fighting now that they're fleeing. Yeah. He's like, see ya.
It's like, I'm tired.
Asmodean's like, I have been using a sword, TM. But not really. I've been channeling.
Rand, I've been using a sword.
Rand, I've been using a sword. Can you tell? It's like, shut up.
I'm not even holding a sword.
Asmodean's like holding it the wrong way.
It's like upside down.
I've been using this. He's just been bonking people with it. But Rand's like, oh my god, picks up Avienda for a hug. We have the iconic moment where he's like, I don't want to let go of Avienda, but I have to hug Matt. And Matt's like, get the fuck off. Be a really great scene to be filmed.
Yeah.
Mostly because we don't know how. We just hear, like, Matt fended him off.
Yeah.
And, like, did Rand successfully pick up Matt also?
And then Matt, like, wiggled out.
Matt was like, ew, stop.
I love the image of Rand picking Matt up. And
I know,
just,
I
like,
think it's
holding
delightful.
him, like, a foot off the ground.
Because he's so tall.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, what's happening? You've never been this happy to see me in your life. Even when we were childhood friends and things weren't complicated, you were still just like, Matt.
Matt.
Did you blow up some fireworks again? You dumbass.
He doesn't try to hug Asmodean, though.
He's just like, you're all alive. This is so great. And Matt's like, okay.
It's like, all right, peace out.
Whatever. And Rand's like, okay, Ale, you go chase after the Trollocs or whatever. I'm gonna go hang out in the palace. Robin's dead. BT dubs.
And I was like, what?
Great. Avienda's like, where'd you fucking go? You just disappeared. And Rand's like, I had to go kill Robin. And they're like, what? Okay. So it's like conflicting memories. Obviously, Matt, Avienda, and Asmodean have no memory of dying.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the timeline in which they died, but other people sort of do.
Yeah.
They keep being to Asmodean like, I thought you were dead. Like, super dead. And Asmodean's like, but here I am. Which is enough for Asmodean to, you know, pick up the pieces, figure out what's going on. But Matt and, to my knowledge, Avienda never have any idea.
Yeah.
Until, I was just reading A Memory of Light, and when the heroes of the Horn finally get called, one of them is super sassy to Matt, like, you should be more grateful to Rand al'Thor because he saved your life 2 times, one you don't even remember. And Matt's like, how can I be grateful for something I don't remember? I mean, he doesn't say that, but that's what he should have said.
Yeah.
Be like, what?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? So everyone's alive. Rand, as we said, spends the rest of the day staring at Avienda and Matt and Asmodean.
So weird.
I know it is. He's just like, I just have to be grateful for what I have, you know? And everyone's like, shut up. Maureen's still dead. Yeah, and also don't stalk people from the window. But Rand is interrupted when Davram Bashir walks in.
Just like fucking waltzes in.
Waltzes in carrying like a wine bottle and like he's fully like, want a party?
Yeah.
And Rand's like, what the fuck?
He's like, sorry to come in unannounced, but there was no one to announce me.
I don't know where your servants are. Is Morgoth dead? I hear Gabriel's dead. And Rand's like, yes, they're both dead. And Bashir's like, so are you ruling now? And Rand's like, no. I am just going to sit in the throne.
Bashir's like, great, whatever. Can I have Mazrim Tem?
Can I please have Mazrim?
I would like to kill him.
He's like, I'm Davram Bashir, local dad.
I have 9,000 horsemen hiding in a forest.
You know, Mongolian parallel horsemen. They're not in Andorran's land, but, you know, for political reasons. But they're close. And I'm just here chasing known fugitive Mazrim Tem. And Rand's like, well, unfortunately, I am going to be providing amnesty for all of the men who can channel, which includes Mazrim Tem. And Bashir's like, okay, I think that's great, but, not in a totally non-magic way, Mazrim Tem is full psycho. Like, I think he was like that before he started channeling. So maybe rethink the policy in this particular instance.
Yeah.
Maybe you could arrest him and then do the amnesty thing.
Yeah. So maybe you could just give me this one guy.
And Rand's like, no, I'm actually going to put him in charge of the school for other boys. And Bashir's like, you're going to put Mazrim Tem in charge of your school for boys who want to do magic.
Rand's like, yeah. Bashir's like, cool.
Bashir's like, I can't possibly see how this could end poorly.
This is a 100% foolproof plan.
Love it. Love it.
Unrelated. Can I stick around?
He's like, so are you going to conquer the whole world? And Rand's like, I mean, if no one else is going to get in line with the whole let's fight the Dark One shtick, then yeah, I'll do what I have to do. And Bashir's like, well, I can't really speak for any of the Borderlanders, but I feel like they'll be behind you. Meanwhile, in the next book or whatever, the Borderlanders are like, first we have to slap him. And it's like, what a great subplot that went nowhere. Love it. But yeah, now Rand has acquired both a dad and a regiment of cavalry.
Yeah. Which is, again, so funny that Bashir's just like, I'm hiding 9,000 horsemen somewhere.
And the White Tower's like, where? What is really hilarious about it is that in this scene, and never again does Bashir give any indication that he was actively hiding from anyone.
Yeah.
He's just like, we were just tracking Mazrim 10, you know?
Yeah.
Totally normal.
Yeah.
So it's like, so do they just naturally move in such a way that no one can find them? Or is that just like the depths of Aleda's incompetence?
I mean, maybe both.
Probably both.
But anyway, Bashir's introduction is very good, where he's just
so
like,
chaotic.
Beep,
He's just like, hello, what's up?
Please give me the baddie.
Meanwhile, Asmodean is like, now I definitely did get resurrected by balefire, but I'm gonna try not to think about it too much, otherwise I'll go a little nuts. And he just like walks into a room to find wine and is like, no, and gets murdered. So that's just like the symbolic death, not only of Asmodean, but of all our hopes and dreams regarding payoff in this series, i.e. there is none.
Yeah. Have you seen the interviews where Robert Jordan's like, I thought it was super obvious who killed Asmodean?
And everyone's like, in what way could it be obvious?
Like,
there's so many Forsaken.
But no, we have to lose Asmodean. And thus ends the fires of heaven.
Yeah, they do like a skip to Morgoth, who's like, Gareth Bryn's out of fucking town, so now I have to go to my second option, the White Cloaks.
It's like, honey, you should have had more options.
That's like, should be at the bottom of your list.
That should not be on the list.
That shouldn't even be on the list. Yeah, girl. Even the White Tower at this point. Yeah. You know? You trained there. At least you have like a non-domestic terrorist relationship.
Yeah, it's like,
them.
I know Aleda's the worst, but you also did have like a working relationship with Aleda for like years. Maybe you could figure out something better than...
It is a total mystery why she goes to the White Cloaks.
Fucking nonsense.
I guess she just feels like, I think the excuse given to us in later books is she's like, I can negotiate with them. Like, they can have part of Andor if they put me back on the throne. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you don't know what the situation in Andor is right now. Even if it's like a worst case scenario, if you're like, Gabriel is still going to be on the throne for eons, you can go to the White Tower, and I'm sure the White Tower will have some sort of vested reason for keeping you alive.
Yeah. I also just feel like, at bare minimum, she should have taken a little time to gather information about things before going to the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
And I also know that this is a, like, I have no vested interest in monarchy, so I can't really speak to her interests, but I feel like if you were a leader who got kicked off the throne, like, would you really want to be on the throne so badly as to put yourself in bed with the White Cloaks? Like, I know she's like, it's for Andor or whatever, but it's like, sis, you really want to put Andor in the hands of the White Cloaks? Just feels like a weird choice to me.
Yeah, like, historically, when monarchs get kicked out of power, they go to the next nearest monarch.
Yeah.
And the White Cloaks don't really fall under that umbrella, however much they quasi-function as a that.
Government.
They're a militant group. They don't control, groups of people.
Yeah.
Per se. Yeah, totally buck wild.
Mystere, to say the least.
But yeah, that is, the fires of heaven. The heavens have been fired. I guess.
They sure have. They have been totally sacked. There's no one in charge of the heavens.
Yeah,
now.
I mean, these last few chapters are very fire-themed. It's like, the threads burn and glowing embers.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Nynaeve literally is like, Hellfire. Hellfire.
Hellfire! Dark fire!
And Rand is shooting balefire. It's like, we get it.
There's a lot of fire going on.
Yeah.
I comprende.
I know. I've got it.
I understand the metaphor. Thank you. So, Fires of Heaven, a book that made some big swings, had a few misses. Mostly, though, had good hits.
Yeah, usually when we finish a book, I'm like, finish a book for EHR purposes, like finish a season, I'm like, even if I didn't necessarily like that book, I've gained a better appreciation of it. I feel like with the Fires of Heaven, I've gained a more complicated relationship to it.
Yeah.
I remember really liking it when I first read it, and I think that's because there's just some, like you said, some, like, really stellar moments. Like, this ending sequence is really well done, and, like, all the stuff that happens in Moghedien at the beginning is really interesting, and we get some really interesting Matt stuff. And I liked the circus more the first time I read it, because it's just sort of a charming plot to be thrown upon you, but then in this read, I was like, okay, the circus is
dragging on for quite a while.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah, Fires of Heaven is one of the thicker books and I think one of the more complicated books, and I think it's a point of transition for Jordan, in which he is now moving from where he's been in the first few books, which is a little bit more narrow in scope in terms of characters are generally moving toward one goal together, or moving at least toward one place together. And we generally are only switching points of view between 3, maybe 4 tops people into, like, this way bigger scope where we have more points of view coming into play, and the chunks of time that we're spending with groups are way longer, or at least they feel way longer. So I think that started in Shadow Rising, but it's sort of getting cemented here.
Yeah.
In Fires of Heaven, which is a really problematic thing because, as we discovered in the Shadow Rising, it didn't work so great.
Yeah, and the Shadow Rising doesn't have quite the same feeling because there's that huge section at the beginning where they're all in the Stone of Tyr together still. So this is like the first whole book where we have this very large fracturing going on without the characters in, like, one place together. So
yeah, and in this one you still have, like, this wild attempt by Jordan at the very end to, like, throw Nynaeve in to, like, bring these two main plots together in a way. And in Lord of Chaos, we're not really going to get that at all. Perrin will be there at the end with Rand, but Perrin will have reunited with Rand long before that. Yeah. So it's less impactful, I guess.
Yeah, it's not like in The Dragon Reborn when it hits so good when all the characters end up at the Stone of Tyr.
Coincidentally together at the same time.
After, like, all the plots coming together so nicely for such, like, a knockout climactic sequence. It's just sort of like, oh, Dumai's Wells is happening, and Egg is also the Amerlin, and also this is happening, and also this is happening.
Yeah, also people are going to Ebu Dar, but nothing has happened in Ebu Dar yet.
Yeah.
And la-di-da-di-da.
Yeah, so it's, like, very odd.
But yeah, Fires of Heaven, mixed feelings.
Mixed feelings. About heaven's fires.
Hellfire. That's how we start.
Fire.
Okay. Thanks for listening. Thank you to Glenna Mackenzie for our theme song. Thanks for sticking with us through Book 5.
Yeah.
We are, at the very least, taking a bye week next week. We will then, we're not quite sure yet, but we'll be taking the week off to put together our Lord of Chaos reading schedule. I don't know yet if we'll return immediately with Lord of Chaos, or if we'll do something extra, or if we will need another bye week or something like that in the mix, because we are about to move.
Yes.
Which isn't hugely stressful, but is a stress that you guys remember, New York to Utah.
Yeah, well, especially because it'll be a huge process of moving all of our equipment specifically.
Yes.
Because we're getting a recording studio.
Yeah, so you'll definitely be hearing from us on social media, but it might be just a little bit until we get to Lord of Chaos.
Yeah.
But enjoy that break, because we are effectively at the 1/3 point in the series. So, you know, haven't really taken a breath, or much of a breather, since we started. So
it's been pretty much every week for almost 3 years.
Yeah. we'll keep you updated, though.
Yeah, we will keep you updated. Definitely. We'll keep you... Check our social media, and we'll let you know what's going on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, until then, all of our Patreon content should be up as usual. We might get a couple skips in the live streaming, but that should be more or less as usual on Fridays. So catch us there.
Yeah.
Do you have a sign-off?
Well, this shirt got messed up in the dryer, and now my boobs basically keep falling out of it, so...
That's not a problem.
I almost wore it to work yesterday, though, which would have been a problem.
I don't think it's a problem at all.
Well, thanks, Emily.